Hello and welcome. Silrace here with World of Warcraft, and this is Zul'Gurub. I'm revisiting Zul'Gurub as it is right now in World of Warcraft. Because WoW Classic is nearing its release, and with WoW Classic we are finally getting old Zul'Gurub back. And that might be the only raid instance I am actually interested in running. Because originally Zul'Gurub was a 20-man raid instance, and what we have right now is a 5-man heroic instance. Well, basically a dungeon instead of a raid, as it was retooled in Wrath of the Lich King to its current state. None of the bosses is basically the same anymore. Even if we look at other things, compared to what we had back in the day with the wait, am I wrong with that? There might be some boss which is the same still, possibly. However, Hakkar is the end boss of the classic raid, and so on. So that's kind of basically similar. Put it that way. Although right now it's Jindo the Godbreaker, but he sort of assumes the guise of Hakkar. But basically, put it this way, the instance right now is very different than what it was back then. And I really enjoyed this place.
It's too late for you. Too late for all of you.
Yeah, the audio kind of plays on top of each other there when you kill him this fast. Because when it came out, when Zul'Gurub came out, it was the first 20-man raid. Unless I remember ordering wrong, but I don't think I do, because I was definitely raiding this before I was doing on Garage. So, the first 20-man raid, and it was the first raid where you are running around actually on your mount. You could mount here and run around on a mount, which is fantastic, which is something very different. And you had interesting bosses with interesting mechanics. At least I found them way more interesting than I found most of the mechanics in Molten Core. At least personally, I really felt that, didn't I, huh? Shows how long it's been since I was here. It's certainly been a while. Alright, can you stop that now? Thank you. Anyways, I did not raid Zul'Gurub with this particular character. This character was created at the end of Vanilla for play in the Burning Crusade. However, I did raid and clear Zul'Gurub in Vanilla way back when with other characters that I actually did raiding with. Hello, Mandakir. Would you like to die now?
I be delivering you to Hakkar myself. Feats Jindo.
Right, so one thing which was very...
Insects. Now you will feel my wrath.
They kept this somewhat similar in the sense that you need to kill a couple bosses even in Dust Dungeon to be able to really kill Jindo. However, in the original Zul'Gurub, you could go straight to Hakkar, straight to the end boss. However, the boss would get bonus effects, basically be stronger for each boss that you had not killed. So, to really have a chance at knocking out the final boss, you would need to kill all the bosses first. Then go to Hakkar and smack Hakkar down. And do know that, as I was saying, basically none of the bosses in this current instance are the same as they were back in the day. The best one I remember is where is High Priestess Kilnara now. Used to be called Arlok. I think it was High Priestess as well. Arlok was the name. It was an annoying boss which uses Gouge, the rogue ability, essentially you needed an off tank for it, ready to always taunt the boss the moment the main tank got gouged, because that incapacitates the main tank, and then the boss charges somebody else. Well, some very interesting mechanics from that point of view on these bosses, and I believe, this is just a personal belief, that Zul'Gurub was a very good learning opportunity, or the learning platform for Blizzard Entertainment's developers in general to the future raid instances, because you have a number of new mechanics here introduced, or very different sort of mechanics, as opposed to what was available in Molten Core, in Blackwing Lair, in Onyxia. Now, of course, Kilnara is now here, but
This body is useless.
you used to be Arlok, and Arlok would spawn, like, the moment you engaged Arlok, there was a gong you needed to smack, that spawned Arlok, and then there would be waves and waves of non-elite panthers as well during that fight. It was a very, very entertaining fight. I really enjoyed it. But moving on to the final boss here, because I'm not gonna clear the entire instance, I'm just doing a couple of the bosses and talking about the random things. I highly recommend, by the way, if you have an active subscription right now and have a high level enough character to come here, come and run through Zul'Gurub. Especially if you plan to do any raiding in WoW Classic, just, you know, because the zone essentially looks and feels the same, just the bosses are different. So there is that. Also, if you are interested in this whole lore thing and how this changed, look up the Corrupted Blood incident. You know, look up the history behind that. It's literally called Corrupted Blood because it was a effect casted by the final boss, Hakkar, which we can see as a nothing but a essentially shade there anymore. What Corrupted Blood did was it basically dealt damage. And the Corrupted Blood incident, originally this was a debuff which was only supposed to happen in Zul'Gurub when you fight the boss. And obviously then, you know, you were not supposed to be able to take that debuff out of here. Oh, and a little tip here before I continue my story. If you come here on a high level character, remember to kill these Gurubashi Spirit Warriors instead of just going to the boss straight up. Because you need these guys, or rather, you need them dead to be able to take down the boss, and I will show you what I mean. If you just if you just go to the boss and do not kill these guys, you are screwed, and I think the only way to get out of that state is to drown yourself in the water over there. I might be remembering that wrong, but I think that is the case. Alright. So, let's kill these guys. Let's be on the safe side. I'm gonna kill all four, just in case I end up screwing up something. But to finish my story, pets of both Hunter and Warlock, when contracting the Corrupted Blood debuff, would actually be able to carry it out of this instance if you've, let's say, Hearthstoned out of here. And that led into a situation where you had a debuff which dealt damage spreading in the world, because that debuff spread to other players. That was part of the effect here. So essentially, you have had a situation which took Blizzard Entertainment like months to actually get entirely under control, entirely fixed, where you would have hunter pets breeding corrupted blood in a major town like Orgrimmar or whatever, and you would have newbies dying to, you know, the debuff they should have had no way of contracting. That was kind of amusing. Hakkar fight. Let's clear this boss and then I'll talk about Hakkar fight. Or actually, since I'm standing in front of Hakkar, let's talk about Hakkar fight and then I'll show the boss as it's right now. Now, we are seeing the shade of Hakkar here. Hakkar was a very different boss back then. What you needed to do, like, Hakkar casted a large, basically in this all massive platform, basically, a spell which drained HP from all of the players in that area. Sort of like this guy is draining the spirit's essence here. However, the fight revolved around that mechanic. What you ended up doing is on these platforms you would have Sons of Hakkar, which looks like a wind serpent, and you would have somebody basically assigned to the duty of pulling Sons of Hakkar up here into the raid to die, because the death of Son of Hakkar would release a poisonous cloud, which everybody would need to stack on into to get the debuff. So when the Hakkar uses the blood siphon, instead of draining health and recovering, it would drain poisonous health and actually damage itself, basically. So the whole fight basically revolved around that mechanic, and yes, there were some other stages and so forth, but this wasn't a DPS race, really a boss. That was the main mechanic you really needed to be on top of to actually win. I do believe Hakkar had a 10-minute end range timer. I may remember that wrong, but I do believe there was a 10-minute end range timer on Hakkar. Somehow that number is etched in my brain. If I'm wrong about that, please somebody correct me in the comment section below. So yeah, I thought Hakkar was an amazing boss. It was very interesting, very different from the previous ones, and like I mentioned, was a this place like always seemed to me as the stepping stone for Blizzard, for the fine folks who made World of Warcraft and the future raids. Like, this was the place where they're like, okay, let's experiment a bunch with weird mechanics. And then they ended up porting a lot of that into the future expansions, into future bosses and so on. If you look at mechanics from here, like compare mechanics from Molten Core to here, you can see vast differences there. Alright, let's fight in Jindo. So this fight here in this heroic version is very different, like the bosses are. Now, instead of Son of Hakkar, I need these Gurubashi Spirit Warriors to actually beat down those chains for me. Dude, aggro me, will you? Thank you. Target myself so that I do not end up accidentally auto-attacking him to death. So I need him I need to stand on top of this spirit chain, and I need him to body slam me to break the bubble, because now with the bubble broken I can actually damage that chain. Oh, god dang it. Allow me to target that, thanks. Alright, body slam me again, will you? This is a very, very different fight, requiring a little bit of a different setup to do. But it has some of these similarities to the original Hakkar fight. The fact that you would need these Gurubashi Spirit Warriors pulled from the platforms around, and so on. So there is enough similarity there, but otherwise it is very, very different. Alright, there we go. And that should be it for these. And now we can actually finish off Jindo. So there you have Zul'Gurub. Zul'Gurub is an amazing instance. Well, I will be honest and say that I do not like this current form all of that much. I do like the atmosphere here. The whole very shamanistic, very ritualistic like thing going on and such. And the look of it is very good. Like when it came out and you came here and you're like, okay, we have a nice green verdant raid instance as opposed to the molten lavas of Molten Core. And I mentioned this when I was doing my revisit of Molten Core, where I like the aesthetic of Molten Core. Like, I like that it sticks to its own, you know, thing. Like, okay, everything is an earth elemental, everything is a fire elemental, or something to do with earth and fire, alright? Here we have very different stuff, except we also have the whole shamanistic spirit thing, because originally, the original Zul'Gurub, every one of those was, every one of the bosses, except Hakkar basically, takes an aspect of an animal, panther, and tiger and so on. And so there was that whole shamanistic, a similar theme there as well. So I really like that. And out of all the instances coming in WoW Classic, when it comes to the raid instances, this might be the only one I would be interested in, doing again. The others don't interest me quite as much. But that is just me, and if you have never ever raided original Zul'Gurub and you plan to play WoW Classic, I highly recommend. I highly recommend it. It's a very good experience. Also, it's only a 20-man raid. It's much easier to get that raid going until, unlike the full 40-man you basically need for most of the things before Zul'Gurub. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this was entertaining. Hopefully this brought memories to you if you raided this place in vanilla. And if not, hopefully this got you interested in doing this when Classic rolls in.